My name is Dr. Fred Muhumza. I'm a board member on the Habitat for Humanity, but also work as a senior lecturer at Makerere University Business School and a director at the Economic Forum, the MOVES Economic Forum within the same business school. Yeah, the housing market in Uganda is quite big because of quite a big population that needs decent housing. There are even those who sleep in houses that is what they could afford. But really, given an opportunity, if the market was to develop further, it would provide them with more opportunities for better housing. I also have people in houses which are really straining their budgets, that they are able to sleep because of the size of the family or because of whatever other needs. A house cost is taking a bigger portion of their budget. Now, they may be comfortably living in a good house, but it's actually a strain on their budget and many other activities. So the housing market in Uganda, you can say, is evolving. There is still room to grow it, but it has also a number of other challenges to grow it even further. The deficit in Uganda's housing is in different compartments. You have the high end, people who will require houses that are big and fitting their status. Now, those also have not been adequately provided for in the different places you would want, because we used to have cases where you'd have places like Muyenga, places like Kololo, Nakasero, are not just high-end houses, but also where you have the high-end people living together. Now, because of privatization and liberalization, many people have built their big houses in the middle of literally nowhere. So that is one issue you want to address, that you might have a high-end property, but the location where it is undermines the high-end component of that house. But also have the middle income. Now, the biggest deficit we have is in the low end, where people can hardly afford the house, and a project may close, they might lose a job, and they have to move into either the low end. So there's a lot of fluidity that also needs to be addressed if we are to really cater and make sure everybody who needs a house can get it within the means they have and also within the time that they have. Now, the housing market really is part and parcel of the capital markets. Or the financing can be through a mortgage, can be through bonds, but unfortunately in Uganda, a lot of those other financing sources are missing. So you have people who have to save from their salary, or they save from their business to build their house. Yet in other jurisdictions, you have a situation where people are able to get a mortgage, and they can finance that in subsequent periods of time. You can even use the house that you haven't finished, because remember, if you get a mortgage and buy a house of 100 million, and over 10 years you have paid and reduced it to about 11 million, you can get another mortgage on that particular house to continue investing in the real estate. So we still have a challenge of market financing for the housing sector, which would even relate to say, do we have capital markets? Can they be a solution in these spaces? These are still areas for policy to develop further. Of course, what we are left with in Uganda is, we have said, to build your house, you have to be creative. You can get a loan, and we've seen people get loans from banks because they cannot get access from capital markets, but which is a little bit more expensive and is not meant for the same product. A bank loan would be good for maybe furniture, but not construction of the house. But I've seen people get bank loans to really buy land or build a house. And at the end of the day, there is a mismatch between the asset you're trying to develop and the reliable, including things of standards. Even after you get construction materials, are the engineers reliable? Do they have an association at all the different levels? So there are quite a number of moving targets, different components that are not yet brought together to enable Uganda and really just not look for financing from either capital markets or from their own resources, but really get the value of the product they wanted, which is a house for a home. And we've said it's not just a house, it is actually a home. So it must have all the different attributes of that home and not just cutting a ribbon that you have a house.